Hi everyone, welcome back to Crochet Rocks. It's Tracy here, and in this tutorial I'm going to show you the way that I do the star stitch, which, or some people call it willow stitch. It's got a couple of names I think, but it's a particularly tricky stitch to master, but I've got a little kind of trick that I use that makes it a little easier. Now, I've heard in the past people say that you really need to do a chunky yarn for this stitch, and it does help when you're maneuvering your stitches, but it's a very thick stitch because it does make a really chunky end result with all the puff stitches. So this one was made with a 4-way Aran yarn, and it's quite thick, as you can see. Now, I did actually make, a long time ago, I made a scarf with it, and I did it with a chunky and it couldn't be used. It was just way too thick. So you don't really need to use a chunky. I know it's easier, but hopefully I'm going to show you today with a DK weight yarn just how easy it is if you use my little trick. So this is one with a DK weight, and again it does come up really thick, so great for a blanket. This is going to be a scarf once I've finished it. So let's move that aside just for a minute, and that one. And this is the yarn that I was using. Now, it's just a really inexpensive yarn from one of those high street kind of discount stores. Now, this was a B&M yarn, and I've used this a lot in a few tutorials already because it's got this really lovely pastel rainbow kind of vibe. But I've got quite a bit of it, so I just want to use it up really. So I'm going to use this yarn because I can undo it and, you know, use it to carry on with that anyway. So, and a few more things to mention, that because it's a really thick chunky stitch, you don't really want it tight. So I recommend you use a larger crochet hook than you would normally use for that yarn. So with this one, this was, as I said before, it was an Aran weight, so a 4-weight worsted yarn, and I used a 6.5mm crochet hook. Now, just a little tip for you, because when you're dealing with a chunkier yarn from a, say, a 4-weight up, this really isn't enough space to get all of your stitches on when you're doing this stitch. So you kind of need a hook that's a bit longer, or one that doesn't have the ergonomic handles, because it's a thicker hook. It's not like holding a really spindly one, but you do need a longer, well, let's call it a neck, because I don't like the other words. So for this one then, this is a DK weight 3-weight yarn, a light worsted yarn. So I've used a 5.5, because I wouldn't normally, for a DK, I'd use a 4.5 to a 5. So it helps actually give you that drapier kind of end result. So I'm just getting some yarn out, and let's just bear with me a sec while I clear stuff away and we'll get going. Okay, as I forgot to mention, if you haven't already, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and the notification bell, and hopefully you'll be informed when new videos just pop up. So for this, I would, you know, if it's not really a beginner's stitch, it does require a degree of kind of knowing your way around stitches and hooks. So if, you know, you could give it a try if you're a beginner, but it is quite tricky. So first off, you need to make a slip knot. Okay, you do that however you normally would, and you just make one chain. Now that's it. We're going to work into that chain. I've made it a little big. I'm just going to make it a tiny bit smaller so it's normal size. So now what we're going to do is we're going to pull up a loop that's kind of about this tall, and we're going to yarn over, go into there, back into that chain, yarn over and pull up a loop and get it nice and high. Yarn over, go back in, pull up another loop and get it nice and high. So now we're going to yarn over, and we're going to pinch this yarn before we go through. So we want to go through it like this, keeping hold of the tail end. And so you've got that in your hand, pop it back on your hook, and then just make it a little bit tighter, not tight, but you don't want it to be too loose, and do a chain into that one that you've just sort of had on in your fingers, and then we're going to yarn over and pull through both. Now this is kind of making the bottom row along here like this. So we don't do chain to start, we just do the one. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to pull up our loop again, and you see the anatomy here of our stitch. You've got this one here and this one here. This is the one that you're going to go into, not the one chain you did there, but the actual going through. So we're going to pull our yarn up and we're going to go into that hole, yarn over and pull up a loop. We're going to yarn over, go back in, yarn over and pull up the loop. So we only go in and pull up twice. Now we're going to yarn over and we're going to grab the yarn here. We're going to pull it through, and then we're going to put that back on the hook like this, snug it down just a little bit to do our chain, and then we're going to yarn over and go through both of those. So you can see what I mean. It is a little bit tricky. So again, we're going to pull up, not massively, and we're going to go into this particular stitch, not this one here, but that one there. We're going to yarn over, and we're going to go in there, pull up, yarn over and pull up our loop, yarn over, go back in, yarn over and pull up our loop. So you've got 5 on your hook whenever you do this. Yarn over, hold on to this half here, pull it through, because your working yarn is not restricted, and then we're going to put that on our hook and just tighten it a little, only a little tiny bit in case it's baggy. Do a chain, yarn over, pull through both. So as you can see, we're making that bottom part. We're going to yarn, pull up and do that all over again. And I'm going to do that 10 times all together. This is the easier row, believe it or not, because after this row, you do get more and more on your hook. So this is the easy part. Okay, so I'm just going to do exactly the same amount of stitches as this one. And so I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. The reason I'm doing 10 is because we need this one, which will be where when we're doing our work, we normally have a turn-in chain. This is a turn-in puff stitch. So I'm just going to carry on. Okay, I'm going to try and zoom just a little bit for you, see if it makes it easier to see. Going to yarn up, and we're going into not this one, but this one. So we're going to yarn over, go in, pull up our loop, yarn over, go back in, pull up our loop, yarn over, hold this part, pull it through, put that on your hook. Careful not to drop it. If you need to snug it down a little, do. 1 chain, finish the stitch. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we've got to do another 5. It doesn't matter, it's not for anything in particular. So just fiddle with it to get it in the right place. But must hold it each time. If you let the stitch go, or just then I was having trouble getting some of these off. If that ever happens and you can't do it, you're struggling, just let that stitch go. It's so easy just to let that stitch go and do it again and learn to kind of forget that one. Because there's a lot of, especially when you get to the next stage, there's a lot of loops on the hook to negotiate. And sometimes they do catch on your hook a little bit. So there's our one, we're popping it back on. 1 chain, finish the stitch. Okay, got a feeling. It is a yarn eater, I will say. So if you're making anything with this stitch, you will need to make sure that you've got enough yarn, because as I say, it's a bit of a yarn eater with all the puff stitches. Okay, try and do it close up again. It's kind of catching. See what I mean? Don't be afraid to just let that one go. Do it again. Start again. But that's not normally where it catches. But it's split. Must be treading on my yarn, because it's pulled some out, but it's still not going freely. I'll just check that out in a second once I finish this stitch. Yep, I was treading on it. That's what I was doing. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Nearly there. Pull up. I'm going to go into this one. I'm just going to pause it for a second, guys. I'm really sorry I had to cough. I brought tears to my eyes as well. Didn't bring a drink over, which I should have done. If I have to, I'll pause it and go get one. Nothing worse than drying up when you're meant to talk. Okay, so I'm just going to count again because I've lost count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So I've got my 10. And I'll zoom out because I think I'm a little bit too zoomed in for this next phase. So these are our bottom. This is our side, but we have to work into this one. So we're going to yarn up, like pull it up, yarn over and go into the base of this stitch exactly the same as we were. And we're going to pull up our loop, yarn over and pull up our loop again. We're going to keep those on the hook. We're not going to finish them off. So we've been into here. We now need to go, this will be our corner. We need to go into our corner and we'll yarn over, go in, pull up a loop, yarn over, go back in and pull up our loop. Okay, so now that's our corner. So this one's like that. We need to work into this one as well. So we're going to yarn over, go into there, pull up, yarn over, go into there and pull up. So this is now all these loops on our hook. We're going into 3 different places each time. So now, just by doing that and pinching, you've really got to try and get through all those. It's kind of impossible. So my little trick is I put my finger in there like that. I just put my finger between the yarn. See, just put my finger in there and it holds this tighter and I can manipulate that through. And then I pull my finger out and put it back in. But you do have to put it down just a little bit because it's now become really baggy being around your finger. And just as before, we do our chain, we finish our stitch. So now this is kind of looking like it's going around the corner like this. It will pull up. So now we're going to pull up and we're going to go into this one that we've just done. Don't worry, it will become clearer as we get on. And now we've got to go into our corner. Each time we're just doing it twice. 1, 2, and then we need to go into our next stitch. 1, 2. We're going to yarn over and we're going to just fish our finger in there and pull these through, all of them. Now, if it gets stuck like it is at the moment, it went right that time. But if it doesn't, let it go. Just let it go and do it again. Don't be afraid to let it go. It's easier than getting bits here and there and getting in a muddle. And then we finish our stitch. So there we go. We're now working along here. So each time we are making 3 petals of our flower or ends of our star. So we're going to pull up and remember we're going into this one We're going to do our 2 in there. We're going into our corner, just down here, yarn over, and do our 2 in there, pulling up each time. And now we're going into our new stitch. I'm going to yarn over, and we're going to poke our finger around the back and just pull that through all of them. Put it back on the hook, pull it down a little because it's been made really baggy. Do our chain and finish off. It's quite, it is fiddly, but this is an easy way to do it if you can master getting your finger in, because it enables you to do it with much thinner yarn, which, you know, is a godsend because it is a very thick stitch. So we're going in my corner, now I'm going in my next stitch. So you go in the top, in the corner, and in the next stitch. Yarn over, and if you don't get your finger in the first time, just keep fiddling and pull it through all of them. Try to get your finger out and put that back on the hook. Just pull it tighter, not too tight, just so that it's not really baggy, and finish off. And we've made our 3 sides of our willow flower or our star, whatever you want to refer to it as. And our top of our stitch, in the corner, and in the next stitch. If I go ahead of you, just pause me and catch up. So we've got all these loops on our hook. We're going to yarn over. I'm going to fiddle my... Oh, I see sometimes it doesn't work out as well as other times, but just put it back and bring that through. Hang on. All of them. Put that back on the hook. Do our chain. Finish our stitch. Looking good, looking good. Okay, just carry on. In the top, in the corner, in the new one, yarn over, finger in. If it helps, you know, if you might be able to do a hook or a pencil, I don't know. It depends how you hold your yarn and your hook as to what works best for you, but it works best for me just putting a finger in. Now, sometimes it makes these holes look a little big, but by the time you've got all your stitches in them, they get smaller again. It's quite a miracle, really. So in the top, in the corner, without knocking the camera over, in the next stitch. Yarn over, wiggle that finger in, get it through, pop it back on and pull it to a normal size, do our chain, finish our stitch. So we're nearly there. Pull up, do our 2 in the top, our 2 in the corner, and our next one. Wiggle that finger in, pull through all of them, put it back on, the 1 chain, and finish off. Okay, so the next one is our last one, but I need to pull out some yarn. As I said, it is a bit of a yarn eater, this one. Pretty though. Try not to tread on it this time. Okay, so this one is no different. Doing the corner, we're going to go in the top. We're going to go in the corner. And this time we need to find the end of our stitch. There. 1, 2. I'm going to yarn over, if we can, with these little hooks. Finger in all the way through. Sometimes you can't get it through. Like I said to you before, just drop it. Don't persevere. Do that one again. Okay, so now we're going to turn. And we need to do our turn in puff. So we're going to do that first. We're going to pull up and we're going to go 1, 2. We're going to yarn over and pinch it, pull it through, pop that on the hook, do a chain, and through both. So now we've got our turning puff again, and we can go in our top, our corner, and our next one. And that is the repeat. That is you just carry on doing that. So we'll do another row, and then we'll take a look at it. Now we're going to go in the corner. And our next stitch, yarn over, pop that finger in, go through all of them, wiggle that out. It's easier when you're not doing this on a camera. You can maneuver about a lot better. Okay, so now we're finishing it off, as you can see. Go up, go into the top of our stitch, into the corner, and into the next one. Yarn over, fiddle that finger in. Oh, I'm having trouble getting this one in. No, it's done it that time. Put that back on the hook, cinch it down a bit, one chain, and finish off. See, so you're now making the rest of the petals around. Okay, so I'm going to carry on without talking and get to the end, and we'll do the end again together. Thought I was going to show you then how it didn't always work out for me and I have to drop it. But I managed to wiggle it in. Because the amount you pull up as well is completely up to you. Oh, see that? Nope, I'm going to drop that one. And that seemed to me as if it should be really good because all the loops were nice and loose. You can never tell when there is going to be one that is just stuck too much. So yeah, if you want taller stitches, you just pull up higher. And it's always funny how you get stuck and the next one goes through really easy. It's always the way. There we are. So just stop and take a look. And it's looking pretty. Stuck. Oh, I got it through. just worth as well pointing out that when you're starting off, you drop a lot more than you do when you're, you know, getting a bit better at it. It's you get more confident with it. So I'm on my last one. Now we need to go into the end stitch, which is there. And then end that. I'm going to pull that out a sec and we're going to take a look at it. So as you can see, it's working out this little flower. And this is obviously what it looks like as you get further and further in. You kind of get a flower, a flower, a flower, and it goes into a nice pattern. And this is the same yarn. This is how it's working up, but it's that way round. Not that I think it really matters, it's identical. But you just keep going with those two, well, it's one repeat really, but the two lines make a whole flower. But obviously you always get a beginning and an end where you'll get half of it. So that's it basically. I'll show you one more time the turning, and just in case you didn't quite catch that, rather than going backwards. So to start off, we always need to make this turning puff stitch before we can carry on. It's the only one that's different. It's the same as the beginning when you first start off. So now there we are, we've got our 3 to go in. We've got there, the stitch we just made, the corner, the next stitch, and that's all we ever do. The one we're in, the corner, the next one. So I hope this was helpful to you, and you go and practice and get something really nice made with this, because it is an absolutely gorgeous stitch. Makes a lovely blanket, and I'm hoping a lovely scarf. Like I said, the first one I made was way too chunky, because, you know, up until then, you know, I kind of, like everyone else, thought it's really only a good stitch for a chunky yarn, because it's just, I need to pull my yarn out already, because it is so so, you know, fiddly. But no, you can do it. Well, there's a will, there's a way, I always say. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye for now. I really like this stitch, to be honest with you, back and front. So traditionally, the first row of working would make that garment or whatever you're working on the front. So this would actually be the back, but I prefer this view. I like them both. Now this is a sample ball of Stylecraft Savannah cotton that was sent to me, and I wanted to see what the yarn worked up like, so I've chosen quite a big swatch, and I really like the way this has worked up in this yarn. So this is, as I said, an Aran weight. This is the other way. The first row now is at the front, so this traditionally would be the front. Now if you preferred the rear view, they're very similar anyway, but if you preferred the rear, you could always at the beginning do 2 rows of UK double or US singles to flip it, and that way you would have the back as the front, etc. So anyway, this is the stitch. It works up really well both ways. That's what it's like with an Aran cotton. This is what it looks like with a DK that's self-striping. This was made with Kiddy's Kaleidoscope in Strawberry Ripple. And this is the back part and this is the front. So I really love this stitch, I have to say. I wanted to show you what it looked like with a chunky as well. So this is the chunky yarn. Again, that is the back view. What I really like about this was sorry about that. My voice just dried. So this is the back, as I said. And it kind of has a, when you use a different colour, it has a chevron effect. So that's what it would look like if you just did, it's a 2-row repeat. And if you did 2 rows in one colour, that is the kind of effect that you would get on the rear. That's what it looks like at the front. So if you wanted to make it as a rainbow and you preferred the back of it, then as I said before, you can just do 2 rows at the base to get it flipped the other way around. I don't have any water handy, so I might have to pause it in a second. But I'm going to also show you this. I wanted to see what it looked like using one of those yarns that's very similar to Boho Spirit by Signet, or the Stylecraft Cabaret yarns. These are the sort of self-striping marble type yarn. Now this one was, if you've watched my channel for a while, you'll know I did a my husband bought yarn for me kind of video, and gave him a budget and off he went, and that's what he come back with. Really, really nice. But I'm going to make it today using just a plain colour. This is a DK weight yarn, and I'm going to use a 4mm crochet hook I've got in my hand. You can use the corresponding crochet hook to the yarn. Obviously you can use any yarn that you want, but make sure if you're very tight with your chain, you use a slightly bigger crochet hook to make the initial chain. Okay, so I'm just going to pause it for a while because I really need to get a drink, and I will come straight back. Okay, so I'm not going to assume you're an absolute beginner, and you'll just need to make a slip knot however you normally do. And once you have your slip knot, you need to make your chain in multiples of 3. So this is multiples of 3 plus 1, and I'm going to just do a little chain now. So I'm going to pause it for a second while I get my chain together. As I say, you want it nice and loose so that it doesn't pucker at the bottom. So if you, as I say, if it's quite tight when you do it, just go up to a bigger hook for now, just to make your chain, and then switch over. So I'm just going to pause it for a second because there's nothing worse than somebody else counting when you're trying to count yourself. Okay, so here I have my chain. They're all multiples of 3, so I need to do an extra 1. Okay, so I'm not going to work in the first stitch. This loop isn't a stitch. I'm going to go into the second one and pull up a loop and just do a whole row of UK double crochets, which is a single crochet in the US. So I'm just going to do that in every single one to the end. Now, if you wanted yours to look on the reverse side, you need to make maybe 2 rows of single crochets US, double crochet in the UK. But I'm just going to do 1 for now. So I'm going to go all the way to the end, and it's a bit boring to watch me, so I'll pause it and I'll come back to you once I've got all the way along. Okay, so I'm more or less there. I've just got 1 more to do. I don't know why my voice keeps drying. So that's what it looks like, unless you, as I say, you can always do another row completely, but just make sure that you go in every single stitch. So we're going to chain 2, and then we're going to skip 1. So this chain 2, this is the stitch it's come out of. We're going to skip the next one, and then we're going to do a V stitch, which is 2 trebles. So 1, 2. Now that's a UK treble or a US double crochet. So we have skipped 1, because this, remember, this one here is where our 2 chain come from, and then we've skipped 1 and we've done a V. We're going to skip 1, and in here we're going to do 2 more UK trebles or US doubles. So we're going to make another V. We're going to skip 1, skip, and V stitch. Skip 1, skip, and V stitch. Skip and V stitch. All the way to more or less until you get to the end. I'm going to pause it then, because it'd be a little boring watching me and I'll catch up with you when I'm almost at the end of my chain, my stitches. Okay, so I'm almost at the end. I've got my last V. I'm skipping this one, and in that very last stitch I'm going to make a single UK treble or US double on its own, so it matches this side where we've got one on its own. Okay, so we're going to turn our work, and this is what it looks like. Now what I like to do is one chain, but I cinch it quite low because I don't want it to get mistaken for a stitch. And then in this very first stitch this time, we're not skipping any, we're going to do a row again, just like the first row, of UK double crochets or US singles. So we're just going to go in every single stitch all the way along and do one in every single stitch. Now I don't know what it would look like if you changed colour, so then you were doing the V's in one colour and these in another. I thought I'd done quite enough variations to show you, but it would be interesting to see what that looked like. It's one of those stitches that you can just play with the different colour combinations and sizes of yarn and see what looks nice. Okay, so we're just going to go in every single one. I might as well stick with you now as I'm almost there. I'll speed up just a little bit if I can until we get to the end. So this is, as I say, a 2-row repeat. The first couple of rows, obviously you're just preparing for the actual stitch. Okay, so there's my last stitch, and now I need to go into the top chain of my 2 chain that started the row. Okay, so there we are. That's what it looks like. It's kind of a row above and a row beneath. So we're going to do 2 chain just as before. We're going to start the row, and now we're going to go into this V and do an elongated V stitch. So we're going to yarn over and drop down past this row and go into the center of our V and pull up a loop. We're going to pull it up. We don't want to go too crazy, but we're going to pull it up so that it's higher than just higher than that row, and we're going to do a V. So we're going to do 2 stitches, and we're going to pull up slightly, and we're going to finish our V. So that's what we're doing. We're dropping down to the row beneath, we're pulling up, and we're just doing 2 UK trebles or US doubles that are longer than usual. Just by pulling up a little bit, we're going into that V, pulling up a little ways and completing our stitch. And we're doing that twice in every single V. So we're making an elongated V stitch into our V stitch below. If that makes sense. So we're now starting the repeat rows. Okay, nice and simple. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to pause it then, and I'm going to go all the way to the end, and I'll catch up with you when I'm on my last V. Okay, so I've made my last V, and now we need to do 1 in our very last stitch, but obviously we've got to try and keep our edges straight. I can't get in. And so we don't really want it to be tall. We've only made these ones tall because we've dropped down. So this one is a normal size, and that is how our work is looking. So now we're going to turn our work, and this is the second row. I'm going to do a chain, cinch it down a little because I don't want it to confuse into being a stitch. And in my very first stitch, we're not dropping down, we're going to just go in the top, and we're going to do 1 UK double crochet, 1 US single crochet in every single stitch all the way along. And this is the second row of our repeat. So our we're going to repeat those 2 rows until we've got the length that we want. Now if you started off with 2 rows at the bottom, obviously you might want to finish off with 2 rows at the top, but I think it's quite reversible, this stitch. I really like both ways. Okay, so I'm going to pause it there, and I will carry on doing 1 in every single stitch until I get to the very end. Okay, so I'm at the end. This is my last of my V's, and so I then need to go into the top of my 2 chain that started that row and turn. Okay, so now we're going to repeat this row again. So we're going to chain 2, and then we're going to drop to this V. So this is the row we've just done, and there's the V we did. So we're going to go into the center of that V. We're going to pull up again, and we're going to do an elongated V stitch into that V. Okay, and then into the next one, which is here, into the center, pull it up a little way and finish the stitch. Make another V, and then we're going to drop down to the next one, and we're going to do our elongated V's just like that. Okay, so we're going to work in every one all the way along to the end, and we're going to do 1 in our last stitch, just the same as we have at the beginning of our row. So I'm going to pause it then, and I'll catch up with you when I get to the end. Okay, so I'm at the end, and I just need to do 1 in my my first stitch there, just to complete that row, and that's what it's looking like here. So that traditionally speaking would be the rear, and that the front. But you know, as I said to you before, if you wanted to do 2 rows at the beginning, that flips it round for you. So this is a great stitch for anything, any wrap, blanket, scarf. I liked the swatch that I was making so much that this is going to be my new scarf for the winter. I love the colours in this yarn. What I'll do is in the description box, I'll put all the stitch count and everything else for that if you wanted to make your own. And if you haven't already, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and the notification bell, and hopefully you'll be informed when new videos pop up. So that's our repeat. This next row we would just do 1 UK double or US single in every stitch along, and then we'd turn our work, and then we would drop down to do the long elongated V in the next row. Nice and simple, but it looks quite fetching once it's done. I really like it both ways. So thank you for watching. Happy crocheting, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye for now. Hi everyone, welcome back to Crochet Rocks. Tracy here, and I'm going to do a little tutorial now for a question that I was asked a little while ago from one of my subscribers. I recently did the stack kind of stitch, and so no longer using the turning chain. Once I did that video, I got lots of questions, so I did several others showing how it works with granny square and other stitches. But I was asked, how does this work out when you're doing the moss stitch? Sorry, I nearly forgot the name of the stitch that I'm going to show you. So I'm not sure if I do my moss stitch exactly the same as other people, because I've seen various different ways. But I'm going to show you how I do my moss stitch and how it works out with not doing a chain at the beginning or the end of rows, so that it works nicely in conjunction with the stack. Now I just call it the stack stitch because in the US it's called the single stack stitch, and in the UK it would be the double. So I just call it the stack, so that way we know what we're talking about. So I'm going to put my yarn on my Wool Genie, but first I'm going to show you it's the Starcraft Chromatic double knitting yarn, and I've chosen this one because hopefully it will show nice definition with the moss stitch. So bear with me while I get set up, and while I'm doing that, if you haven't already, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and the notification bell. And incidentally, I'll put links to the other videos in the series of this stack stitch at the end of this video. Also, if I can remember, I will put a link for those videos in the description box, along with a link to my shop where you can get that yarn and my other channels. So just a little bit of a note then, the recommended hook would be a 4mm. Now I have used a 4.5. I'm going to do a swatch video of these yarns very soon, so watch out for that and you'll see the difference. The colour of this one is called Whispering Willow. It is a wool and premium acrylic combination, but I'm a bit allergic to wool. But if it's anything under, say, 25% and you can't feel that wool content, i.e. scratchiness, it's fine. And so that's exactly what this is. So I'm going to use as well a 4mm crochet hook this time around. This is a Clover and More, but the reason I'm using this is because of the colour. It will show the yarn quite nicely against it. Okay, so I always make an odd number of chain. Let me just go down a little bit. There we are. So you just crochet any odd number that you want for your project. So I'm going to pause the video because I need to count, and that is very off-putting if you're doing the same. So I'll come back to you once I've got my chain. Okay, so I have 25. That's an odd number of chain, and I'm going to, in the second chain from the hook, I'm just going to do a UK double crochet, which of course is a single crochet in the US. And for the purposes of this tutorial, I'm just going to do one in every single stitch all the way along, just because then it will show a nice even base to start with. I mean, obviously you don't have to do that. You can go straight in with the stitch and it will be exactly the same, except you'll just go into chains rather than these UK doubles or US single crochets. So again, as it will be boring just watching me go all the way to the end, I'll pause the video and I'll come back to you once I have my my foundation row. Okay, so I've done one stitch in every single one. Like I said, you can just go straight in to the actual stitch, but I find it cleaner to do this. So in my very first stitch, which is the one that this is coming out of, I'm not going to chain. Incidentally, it depends on the yarn, but if I ever do a chain to get up, I will just do one and I'll pull it right low so you can't see it. So that's the only time that I ever would do a chain. But for this one, I'm going to show you what it's like if we don't do that chain. It just depends. Some yarn is very silky soft and goes in on itself. Do you know what I mean? It just moves in. And so that stitch becomes very tight. So that's the only way I would do that. So in my very first stitch, I'm going to do one UK double crochet. Now I don't want this loop on my hook to be super tight. It's got to be nice and free. I'm going to chain one and skip one and go into the next stitch, just as if I were doing any other moss stitch. If this is your first time with moss stitch, then we chain one, skip one, and then we go into the next and do our UK double or US single. And we're going to repeat that all the way along by doing one chain and skipping one and going into the next one, all the way to the end of this row. Nice and easy. Now this stitch does pull inward. I've done it quite a few times in swatch videos where I've put it into the middle of a kind of a line of stitching, and it has the effect of pulling it in. So it may make my foundation row kind of look a little baggier, but I still think it's nicer to show you on this. Okay, so I've now got to the end, skip one, and I'll go into this stitch here, and then I have an extra one, okay? But I'll do another stitch in that last stitch, okay? Now turn my work. And we've done our first row of moss stitch. So in this very first stitch where the yarn comes out, I'm going to do my stitch. I'm going to chain one, and I'm going to leapfrog over that second stitch, go into this gap. And then I'm going to chain one, and I'm going to skip the stitch and go into the gap, my one chain space. And that's what I'm going to do all the way along. So I'm still skipping one and going into the next stitch, but I'm going into the chain space, not into the stitch. What I mean is I'm not going into the top of my chain, I'm going into the space. All the way to the end. Sorry, we have a lorry going by with DIY supplies, and for once they're not my partners. Incidentally, I'm expecting a parcel, so it may turn up during this tutorial. If so, I'll just pause it and come straight back. Just to be aware if that happens. Okay, so I'm nearly at the end. I'm going to do my space, and so I'm going into the last of my chain spaces, and again I have that last stitch left. Now the beauty of not doing a chain, you have your V here and you can see the last stitch nice and easy, just the same as with the stacking any other stitch that we do. Okay, so again I'm going to go into that first, take my hook with me, I'm going to go into that very first one. We don't want a tight stitch, but we don't want it super baggy. I'm going to chain one, and then I'm going to go over this one and straight into the chain space. So it's a very easy stitch. But I know that some people don't do that double stitch at the end of the row. They do it with a chain, which, you know, I'm not doing a chain. I think my yarn is a bit snagged up. Hang on a sec. It went round on itself on my wool genie. Okay, so I'm just going to do the same thing all the way to the end. And if you find it hard to see it, because it is a small stitch, you can feel where your chain space is, where your stitch is, and where your chain space is. Okay, nearly at the end. Again, we have our last few stitches. I'm going to chain one, go into my last chain space. I'm not sure what that was. Sounded like a gunshot. Okay, so then I have one stitch left here, and I'm going to go in there. It's nice and simple to see your last stitch. That's what I love about the stack stitch of any kind. You can see the V. Not so easy with this yarn, I admit, but there it is. You can see the V, and you can get in and find that last stitch to keep your edges super straight. So yeah, we're actually doing our stitch now. So again, we're going to go into that first one without a chain, unless, you know, your yarn that you're using does kind of shrink back, then do that chain as I showed you and scooch it right down. I'm going to do my chain. I'm going to find my first space and start my moss stitch. Just the same as before. And I do find, you know, it is hard to see if you're a beginner, but it starts to take shape, and you can manipulate it and find your stitches, no problem at all. So it is a simple but really effective stitch. I love this stitch. Every yarn that I've ever used to make this stitch is just enhanced by it. And, you know, it is beautiful. Obviously, it's just a small stitch, so therefore it doesn't grow as quick. So we're going to go into our last one. Easy to find your V. I've gone into extra than my V. There we are. Do our last one. And as you can see, I think we've done a few rows now. That makes a lovely straight edge by both sides. Okay, we'll do a few more rows. If you feel confident and everything else, you can drop out at this stage. But I'm going to do a few more rows. And you can stick with me if you're, not feeling quite so confident, or you just want to... I think my yarn is snagged up again. It's because my genie spins. And if you don't put the this part, the spindle, through the dead centre, sometimes it does not run as freely. Little lesson learned. Okay, so we're just going to go all the way along. And we'll see a few more rows just to see how it works out. Nearly there. Okay, so there's our last space. And no more chain, just straight into that last stitch. And then we turn and we do it all over again. Okay, so this time I will pause it and meet up with you when we get to the end. But the trick is that this stitch needs to be the same sort of tension as the rest of your stitches and not tight. So if you find that you make it too tight, I will show you how it looks. You might have just disappeared on me as I said I'm going to pause it. But I'll show you how it looks. It doesn't look any different if we do that chain and we scooch it right down so it's very more or less non-existent. And all that will do is give you this little line here. We'll do a couple by making that chain, and you can see the difference. There shouldn't really be a great deal of difference. Okay, so I'm going to pause it then, and I'll catch up with you when I get to the end of this row. Okay, so I'm at the end of the row. I'm just going to do my last one. Okay, so now I'm going to do my chain, but I'm going to scooch it, or as I say, cinch it right down so that it's more or less non-existent, and do my first stitch. So this end of this row will show you what it looks like when you do that chain, because we did it at the end of the previous. Okay, so let's just, it's very small, so I won't bother pausing it. We'll just get straight there. And if I go too fast for you, you can always pause it and catch up with me. But I think we know what we're doing with this stitch now. Okay, so we're there. Into my last chain space. Okay, so then you just go into your top stitch there. You can see there are the two loops. Now, if this little bump here does confuse you, you know what to do. Omit it. Okay, so I'm going to do one more row. I'm not, okay, I will, as I said I would. I'll do my chain. You don't need it with this yarn. And most yarns, I find, you don't need it. Because you will get this little extra bump. And it does affect a little bit your straight edge. But we'll show you exactly how much, or I will, not we. There's only one of me, thank goodness. I don't think people who know me in the world could cope if there were two. Okay, so let's get to the end of this one. And we'll have a look. I need to pull my yarn again. But my yarn genie just wants to, wool genie. I always call it yarn genie, it's a wool genie. Wants to spin like the clappers when I pull it. Okay, so we're here again. There's the stitch at the top there, just the same. Makes it a little trickier to get your hook in, or it might just be the hook. I'm not used to these hooks. I use tulips. Okay, let's have a look. Has it made a great deal of difference to the edge? It's made a tiny bit. Well, actually it hasn't, has it? Because you can see you've still got that little kind of bump. I don't think it's made any difference at all. Looking at this one, it would have just been here. And you can see there's a little, I suppose it's a tad bigger, but it's kind of doable, I think. But you see what I mean? This stitch does kind of pull in. Would make a great waistband if you're making a skirt and you wanted to taper, then switch to this stitch rather than decreasing. It's just a little tip, because this will kind of give you a lovely waistband without ribbing. Okay, so that's how I do my moss stitch. And it's also how I make my moss stitch. I mean, I've always done it the same way, but now that I do the stack stitch and I don't do any turning chains, that is how I do it. So I just wanted to show you with that little chain, if we did have to do it. It's only kind of really silky soft yarns that slip and slide that I would use that. But everything, and I don't always anyway, you know, it's only if it absolutely is necessary. Otherwise I'll just go straight into the stitch itself. I don't bother with any kind of turning chain now in any way at all. So I've done so far every single stitch that is imaginable, videos, and I will just say link those in the description box below, and get on. I'll show you what they're like. Now I'm going to carry on with this for a little while because I'm making a swatch video, and so I want to show how this yarn works up. So I'm going to carry on with my swatch, but I feel like that's enough for this tutorial. So I hope you've enjoyed that, and I hope it helps, especially the person who did ask me. I think his name is Gary. So hopefully, Gary, that has helped you. Thank you for watching, everybody. And if you haven't already, as I said, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and the notification bell. Now, I'm not one for doing much in the way of stitch tutorials. I've made my own stitches up in the past and showed them to you and done the basic stitches, but this one really caught my eye and I wanted to show it to you. I'm going to be making a project with this stitch. I've decided that exactly what it is I want to make with it, and I will do that very soon. But it is a little fiddly, but it only really works in the round, like you know, a round project. But it's perfect for things like bags and baskets and that sort of thing, because it makes quite a stiff and sturdy piece of work. So if you do the same stitch in rows, then it looks like this. So it's not horrible, it just isn't quite the same. You can see there's this row here, but obviously the reverse of it is this one. So it's not horrible, and you know, it can be quite effective, but it's not exactly the same. Also, it doesn't make it quite as stiff. Now, this yarn that I've used is meant to be an Aran weight yarn. It's meant to be a 4 weight, but it is quite thick. So I think it's more of a chunky, to be honest with you. So I'm going to show you how to do it. It is quite fiddly, as I said. So if you haven't already, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and the notification bell, and hopefully you'll be informed when new videos pop up. So this is no real stitch multiple. It is basically a stitch multiple of 1. So there's nothing complicated about that. And I just made, I think this one was just a chain of 30 joined, and then I started just to see what it would look like. So take no notice of my seam, because I wasn't really concentrating on whether that looked good or not. I was just you know, doing the stitch to see what it would look like. So I was doing a chain stitch here. This is just making it with chain, and then this was with the stack. So I think, to be honest, it looks a little better with a chain, and there is a reason for that. Most things look better if you make the stack stitch, but this one doesn't so much. Now, for this stitch, it takes a little bit of getting used to, but you yarn over and you go into your next stitch and you pull up your loop as if you're doing a UK treble or a US double crochet, and then very carefully you bring your hook back on itself. Now if you don't do that quite right, you will drop all your stitches, and then you yarn over and pull through 2. I'll show you again. You yarn over, go into the next stitch and pull up your loop. It helps to pull up a little, but you need to bring that behind. You catch that yarn as you come, and that's, if you don't catch the yarn, then obviously they all fall off. And you will see that happen, probably, because it does happen from time to time if you're not in the right spot. So it is a bit fiddly because you have to take your hook behind, make sure you catch that bar at the back there of the stitch, of the loop, should I say. You can just see through there, you will see that loop as you come round. And that's it. It is as simple as that. Well, I say as simple as that. It is fiddly. I do agree that it is fiddly, but so effective. I think it's quite unusual. If you look at the stitch, it's really quite different. I like it a lot, actually. It would never replace the UK treble or US double in a lot of work, because it does make a sturdier stitch, and it would be great for you guys across the pond who make scrubbies. It's got that kind of texture. My genie's not pulling. I've actually taken this on and off my genie so many times, this ball of yarn, that it's a bit what's the word, undressed, so messy. So you just go round the back, pull up your loop. I will do a few more with you. It's quite fiddly. You just bring that round. It helps to have your hook aiming downwards as you go round, and you will catch that yarn that's there at the back. So you're aiming to catch this one as you go around there. I'll see if I can zoom in and show you more closely. Try not to go off camera as I do it. It is very zoomed now. So we're going to pull up our loop exactly as we would, and we're going to, if you just go like, I can't drop it. I was dropping them last night. There you go. If you don't go round, you will drop them. So you need to go round and under and catch that loop at the back. Around. That's why it helps to pull it up as you go, so that you've got a nice amount of yarn kind of sticking up to catch it. I really like this. I don't know if it has a name. I think it doesn't. I don't think it's been around that long. I can't even remember where I saw it. It's one of those things that you see and you store it in your head and you think, I'll do something with that one day. So last night I was sitting there thinking of making this project that I want to do and what stitch would look good. And I just decided this one. It's so automatic to yarn over, but of course you don't yarn over. You don't yarn over at all, but you just want to at that point yarn over. But just practice. It's actually pretty good. So that's the working in the round. I like that a lot. I didn't realise I was so zoomed in. Sorry if it loomed up on you. But yeah, that's what it looks like working in the round. But if you're working in a straight, it's not good for the edge, I don't think. I did start off with a chain and then I started doing the stack. So it really, then none of them are, I just need to switch my yarn over, bear with me a second. Okay, none of them are the cleanest of edges. I also did this. I thought, wonder what it would look like if I did a standing a standing start. So chain 1, then this one becomes super fiddly because you're going to go in that very first stitch, pull up, and then you've got to come back round, and this then is your first stitch. It's, I think, a little cleaner, but I don't really like very much the way this, my genie wasn't attached. I don't like very much the way this yarn is, this stitch works in a straight. It's not horrible, but, and good for scrubbies and things like that. As I said, it's very textured. So yeah, it has a purpose. I mean, it's not horrible to look at. And I think maybe just playing with different yarns, different textures might be cool, but I prefer it. I prefer it in the round where you're just going in the one direction and not swapping over direction. It does make a completely different effect. But yeah, don't think it's got a name. So just something to, see, it's so easy just to yarn over. It's what we're used to doing. I don't feel like the edges are clean on the straight. And yeah, not the nicest. Let's look. So it's not horrible. Just and it does have kind of a pattern. You can see it merging. I don't know, maybe I'm maligning it, and it does have a place. So anyway, that's the stitch. Heaven above knows what it's called. Maybe we should think of a name. But watch out! I will be doing a project with this very soon, but I will give on that project I will give an alternative. You don't have to do this stitch, but I really like it. I like the kind of, I would say, no other word but squiggly vibe of it. Thank you for watching. I'll see you on the next one. Take care for now. In this tutorial I'm going to show you how to do my trophy stitch. I've made a big blanket with it. This is an Aran weight yarn, and I just used lots and lots of different scrap balls of Aran that I had left, but you can obviously make it out of any colour scheme or all one colour. I'm going to get that out of the way because it's so big you can't really see it too well, but here we go. This is the actual stitch, and I've called it the trophy stitch. One of my subscribers said it reminded her of a sippy cup, so you could call it the sippy cup stitch if you wanted to. Now I like it for making a blanket or anything really, but you could also just use one row as a border around another blanket, especially if it was for a baby. That would look kind of cute. But I've made it in this 4-way Aran. That's how it works up with Aran, and this is how it works up with a DK weight. Now this is obviously using a variegated yarn. I love everything I make with this yarn. It always looks good no matter what I make with it. So I'm going to show you how to do that. For the blanket I did a total of 95. I'm looking for another little swatch. I did a pink one. I seem to have lost it. I must have knocked it off the table. Never mind. A total of 95 chain for the blanket. That was the size of a crib, of a cot, a baby's cot. If you wanted to make one for a pram or stroller or a car seat, obviously just use less chain, and I'll get to the multiples in a second. But remember that 95 was using a 4-way Aran yarn. For the purposes of this tutorial I'm going to use a DK weight. Now this is a nice one. This one came from Hobbycraft, and it is a good size thickness DK. So I'm going to use a 4.5 millimeter crochet hook as well. Now this one is a Tulip Soft Grip Red, and I'm trying those out. I've only just got them. I like them so far. Okay, so for this stitch you'll need a multiple of 4 plus 3, but your foundation chain must be, let me just go down a little bit, there we go, must be very loose. So if you're the sort of person who has good tight tension, then you'll need to maybe use a couple of sizes bigger hook to make your foundation chain, because you really do want generous size stitches. So I'm going to just do a swatch for this tutorial. For the blanket border, I just went round the whole blanket with half trebles, which are half double crochets in the US. So nothing frilly or fancy. In the corner, just doing 3 stitches to go around the corner. So that was very easy, just going round and round. I didn't put a fancy border on because it's quite a lacy stitch, if you like. So I'm going to do a quick swatch in multiples of 4 plus 3, and I'm going to try and make my chains nice and loose. So I won't talk while I do that. Okay, so those are my multiples of 4. So I'm going to do 3 extra, and in the 3rd chain, I'm going to make 4 UK trebles or US double crochets, double crochets. So that's with the 3 loops, pull through 2 and pull through 2. So this is just assuming that you know how to do these stitches already. You're not going through each stitch. So each end will have a total of 5 stitches, and that's because the 2 chain, remember we went into the 3rd, counts as our end. So this is why you needed a nice loose chain, because that does bunch up quite a bit there. Okay, so now we're going to skip 3 chain, and in the 4th one we're going to do 4 UK trebles or US double crochets, all in the same chain space. If I go ahead of you, then by all means just pause it and catch up to me. So again, we're going to skip 3, and in the 4th do our 4. Okay, and we're going to skip 3 in the 4th, another cluster of 4. For my pink swatch that I wanted to show you, I did a chain in between these because you're going to go into that space, but you don't need to. But I did it just to see what it would look like. So it's a shame I can't find it. I'm just going to pull out some yarn. Okay, so carrying on to the end, skip 3. Did I skip 3? 1, 2, 3 into the 4th with our 4 stitches. Which should leave our last stitches, and we're going to do 5 in this end one because it's the opposite end, and we need 5 because we need kind of a post at the end. It will look like it pleats right out, but don't worry about that. So there's my 4 and my extra one. Okay, so now we're going to turn our work, and it does kind of work out, and we're going to chain 2, not tightly. Okay, so now we're going to, this one doesn't count. Here's our 4. We're going to do a front post around this one here, this first stitch. So we're going to go around the back, bring our hook through, yarn over and pull it through, and then we're going to complete our UK treble, US double. Okay, so now we're going to chain 1. Okay, so there's our first one, our second one, 3rd and 4th. So between, we've got 2 this side and 2 this side. So between our next 2, we're going to make a 4 crochet 4 together. So we're going to yarn over, we're going to go into that space, the whole space between, and pull up the loop, yarn over and pull through, but that's where we're going to stop. We're going to yarn over, go back in, yarn over and pull up a loop, yarn over and pull through 2. So that's our second. Do that again, yarn over, back in, yarn over, pull up the loop, yarn over and pull through 2. That's 3. Yarn over, back in, yarn over and pull up the loop, yarn over, pull through 2. That's 4. So we've started 4 treble crochets, but we haven't finished any of them. So now we've got 5 loops on our hook. We're going to yarn over and pull it through all 5 and then do a nice generous chain. Okay? If that's confusing, then you can watch it again, but I will do it slowly until the end of the row. So now we've got the 2 stitches after this kind of bobble, if you like, and we're going to do a front post around this one here, but it's going to be different this time. So we're going to go round, pull up our loop, and we're going to go through 2 and stop. And we're going to look at our next cluster. We're going to yarn over, and we're going to do the front post around this one, yarn over and pull it through, yarn over and pull through 2, and then we've got, I know it does look like it bunches, but it does sort itself out. So now we've got 3 on the hook. We're going to yarn over and pull through all 3 and do a chain. And this is how we make our trophy looking stitch. So here we are. We're going to go in the center of our cluster in here. We're going to do 4, so crochet together 4. So that's yarn over, pull through 2, back in, pull up through 2, back in, pull through 2, back in, pull through 2. Now if you get confused as to how many you've done, as long as you've got 5 on your hook, you've done 4. Okay, so pull through all of those, nice generous chain. And now we're going to do our front post around these 2 stitches again. So we're going to yarn over and we're going to go round that one, pull up our loop, pull through 2 and leave it to the next one. Exactly the same, pull through 2, and now we have 3 on our hook, pull through all 3 and do a chain. See how it's working out. And now in between, it doesn't like pucker a little bit, but don't worry, as you go further on away from this foundation row, then that will stop. So there's our 4. We're going in the center, that space, and we're going to do our 4 together. We're going to pull through 2, go back in, through 2, back in, through 2, back in, 5 on the hook, through all of them and do our chain. And now we're going to link these 2 with our front post again. Time to pull out more yarn. It does use quite a bit of yarn. It's quite fiddly, isn't it, this stitch? So we're going to go round the back of that one, pull up our loop and go through 2. And then we're going to go around the back of the next one, pull up our loop, go through 2. Now we're joining them together by going through all 3, 1 chain, and we're into the center of our cluster again with our crochet 4 together. Pull through all of them, 1 chain, and then we're going to join these 2 together. Once you start doing it, it gets easier and it becomes, at first it's a lot to remember, but as you do it more and more, it gets easier. And the good thing is, this is just a 2-row repeat. So once you've got them, you've got them. Unless, like me, you don't write it down and you forget how to do it. I'll just have to stop doing that. Okay, so these 2 we join together. More yarn already. Hang on a moment. It'd be easier if it was a ball. Just roll. So I've got my 3, I'm going to pull through all 3, I'm going to do a chain. Now this last one is a little awkward to see because it is on this last chain, so it's got 5 kind of angry stitches, if you like. So we're going to go in the center of our 4 and do our 4 together. And then we're going to do our chain. And now we've got 2, so we're going to go around. So we've got our last 2, and then we've got this 1 on the end. Now this 2 here are part of our cluster, so the last one we are going to do the front post, but we're not going to join it to anything, so we're going to finish that stitch, and then next to it here is our post, and we're going to do our last one in there. It does look a little bunched up and tight, but it will, there you go, eventually once you go in you'll see that it will pull out. So now we're going to turn our work, okay, and we're going to chain 2. Now this is a nice easy row. When you're looking at this, this is our crochet 4 together, and this, there are 2 stitches, so if you look, one of them is a bigger one than the other. This is our stitch that holds the whole of the 4 together, and this is the chain. You can look at it that way. You see this one's sort of bigger because it's the chain, and we're just going to do 4 UK trebles or US double crochets in that stitch. If it's easier for you to remember, do 2, 1 chain and 2, and you will see more easily your space. But if you're quite happy going into that stitch there, if it's fine for you, then by all means just carry on. So we're going to go skip everything, go over to the next one, which is this one here. You can see there's your kind of bobble, if you like, and you're going to this one here, and we're going to do 4. Nice easy row. We're doing our 4 or our 2, 1 chain and 2. We're just going to repeat that all the way to the end. We're going to go into the next one, which is here. Can't get in it. Nope, didn't go in properly. Whoops, sorry. Knocking the camera. Tell I haven't done a tutorial for a while, can't you? Out of practice. So that's all we're doing, all the way to the end. No chains between. It helps pull it together. That's it. Almost there. Just got another couple to do. So if you make that chain after your crochet 4 together nice and generous, it's much easier to find when you're doing this. Okay, I'm getting a little bit too close, I think. For some reason, I've lost the ability to zoom. So I'll try and get as close as I can. And then I just hit it with my crochet hook. And this is my last one. So after this one, we're going to find that stitch at the end. And we're going to go into that one. So here it is. I'm just going to go into that top stitch there, top chain stitch, and do a UK treble or US single. So now it's working out, you can see. Turn our work, and we're going to complete our second top of our trophy or sippy cup. Pulled out some yarn. Now this is an easier one to show you on because the foundation row is always more tricky. We're going to do 2 chain, and then around this first one, there's nothing to attach it to anyway, we're just going to do a front post stitch and 1 chain. So there's always a chain after and a chain before it. So there's our cluster of 4. This is being our first. We're going to go into that center and we're going to do our crochet 4 together. So we're going to pull up our loop, go through 2, yarn over, back in, pull up our loop, go through 2, and again, and again. Got 5 on our hook, pull through all 5, a nice generous chain, and then we're going to join these 2 together with our front post stitch. So we're going to go around that one, pull it up, through 2, yarn over again, round this one, pull it up and go through 2, 3 on our hook, go through 3, 1 chain, and then into the center of our cluster of 4 again. So once you get into this, it's a very easy stitch because it's a repetition that makes it easy. And I found this very good stitch, very easy to sit and watch TV and do this. Wasn't an awful lot of times when I had to take my eye off what I was doing. And chain, there we go. Go all the way to the end. I've got plenty of yarn. It's good. Do another one in here. All through 5, 1 chain, and now we're going to join these 2 together. This part of it, I think, is probably the hardest bit, but once you've got this done, it's quite simple. There you are. So I'm going to pause it. I'm going to go all the way to the end, and I'll catch up with you when I get to the right up the end. Okay, so I've gone all the way along. I'm on my last one. So remember, when you get to the last one, we're just going to do a full front post stitch, and then next to it you'll see the next stitch we go in to make our last sort of post, and that's it. So basically it is just a 2-row repeat, and it makes this kind of trophy looking stitch. I kind of like it. So that's it. Hope you enjoyed that. Don't forget, it's multiples of 4 plus 3, and your foundation chain row must be nice and loose, especially for this first part here, because it really does kind of pull, because you're putting 5 stitches into it in a way. So thank you for watching. If you haven't already, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and the notification bell, and you'll be informed when new videos pop up. Okay, bye for now.